Oh yeah, it's Puller 2.0. This bad boy is gonna make light work. This is the first pull I made a while back. It worked extremely well, but it was just too heavy and big. I got my hands on a tilt cylinder from a grader's blade. Then I made a couple adjustments to it. I removed the ears from the barrel end and rod end. Then I cut an internal thread on the rod end. And last but not least, I added a handle to the hydraulic cylinder to make it more mobile. Puller 2.0 can't be the same color as the old puller, so I gave it a quick touch-up with a black primer. Alright, so let's have a look at the full system setup. So the pressure comes from this hydraulic power unit. This is a pre-owned unit and was originally actuated with a pneumatic switch. I did not have time to change the whole setup, so I made a quick contraption on the pneumatic switch so I have constant flow on my pressure port. I added a gauge on the pressure port, then made up two new hydraulic hoses that go to the control valve. This is the only control valve I had available. It has two levers, but I only need the one, so I blanked the two ports that work with the second lever. Yes, I am using a bolt as a lever. The original lever is missing, but hey, it works. And lastly, this puller would be useless without the jigs I had to machine. So stay tuned, I'm going to explain how it works. But firstly, let me run it back. I've got new pins and bushings that need replacing on this worn out TLB. Let's start the bush replacements on the front bucket links. As you can see, the wear is quite excessive, and you can't argue that it definitely needs new bushings. So let me demonstrate how Puller 2.0 makes light work. Firstly, I rub the bushing with some copper slip. I believe some people know it as anti-seize. Then I put on the puller, which again is a lot lighter and more mobile than the old one. For these small bushings, I'm going to use a threaded rod with a nut and a washer bigger than the outside diameter of the bushing I'm pulling in to act as a stopper. I pull the bush until the washer is against the link, and Bob's your uncle, that's the first bushing in. Unfortunately, the inside diameter on these bushings are smaller than the hydraulic cylinder rod, so I have to pull these bushings in one at a time. Let me explain. Now that the bushing is in on the one side, I flip the link and look, the rod cannot fit through the bushing. But that's one of the reasons I made this spacer for. It will give me a 120mm stroke on the puller when the rod cannot fit through a hole. The spacer does have another purpose, and I'll demonstrate that soon. In case you're wondering where the old bushings are, they are already removed. These bushings on the links are not so big, so they were easy to remove. I just beat them out with a hammer. But the other larger bushings on the TLB, I did remove with the puller. I'll demonstrate how the puller does that soon. Let me just complete all these links. And that was the front bucket links complete. Now I'm pulling two bushings at once. Again, this is possible because the puller's rod could fit through the bushings. Not that it takes a long time to fit the bushings, but pulling two at once saves me half the time. And I must admit, it's quite a satisfying way of fitting the bushings. Next up is the back bucket's link. I pulled these one at a time and then my brain decided to work. See, I was using a bolt with a long shank and some spacers to pull the bushing in. But I forgot I have this size threaded rod and I can use it to pull both bushings in even if the rod cannot fit. I put the power unit and the control valve on a trolley to make it more mobile. Now take a look at this. The puller's rod cannot fit through both bushings, but I pulled them both at once. Because the spacer I made allows for 120mm stroke on the puller, and the length of both bushings together is less than 120mm, all I need is a washer on either side of the bush to act as a stopper, a threaded rod long enough to fit through everything, and a nut, and I could pull both at one time, even if the rod cannot fit through the bush. I really hope you understand my explanation. If not, just understand this puller is making light work. I mean, just check how easy this is going. In, too easy. And next lady for a shave? Alright, now I want to show you that pulling out the bushings is just as easy as pulling them in. Firstly, I need the jig I made that suits the bushing, and then it's basically the same concept as pulling in the bushing. The only difference is there isn't a washer that acts as a stopper. Everything gets pulled right through into the spacer I made for the puller. So that covers the second function of the spacer. Next up, the swing frame. Man, you gotta admire the light work this thing makes. In, in and in. Swing frame complete. Next up is the bracket the C-frame mounts onto. Firstly, I removed the old bushing. I put the jig I made onto the threaded rod, screwed it into the puller, then pulled the bushing into the spacer. The old bushing was now out the hole, so I put the new bushing onto the threaded rod with a washer that acts as a stopper. Pulled it in, and that's the first hole complete. I then repeated the same process on the bottom hole. Old bushing out, new bushing in. I must admit, I did struggle removing one of the cylinder bushings. I even ended up breaking the jig. That thing was just sitting tight. But you know what they say, bigger the problem, bigger the hammer. Okay, I'm not using a hammer, so I just machined a thicker jig. And bang, I won it. And the new bushing in. This damn bushing broke my jig. Needs a slap. Next up, the swing frame cylinders. Old bushing out, new bushing in. Same with the next one. Old bushing out, new bushing in. And that's all the bushings replaced. Just too easy. Made light work out of all of these parts. Next, I need to assemble the TLB so I can see the difference with the new pins and bushings. Swing frame on. Boom on. Cylinders, stick and links on. Let's have a look and see now. Everything was firm. There was not a pin or bushing that had any play. It's as good as new again. From an excessive amount of play to perfectly functioning again without any play at all. If you enjoyed this video, smash the like button, share it with your buddies. Thanks for watching guys, see you in the next one.